Okay. Welcome one, welcome all. Today is December 18th, 2025. Thank you for being here. We are currently in the middle of the 1212 portal, which remains open until the winter solstice on December 21st. This is the time to let go of all that which holds us back. The year of the snake with the root number of 9 is closing, and we are entering the year of the horse with the root number of 1 for new beginnings, growth, and evolution. We are shedding the old skin before stepping into our new robes. May we all have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Tonson Fairmont is the most humble founder of Brilliance in Commerce. He is a consultant for the bank instruments investment programs, professional speaker for offshore investment seminars, and author of Sovereignty Consciousness and Cosmic Renaissance. I am your host, Seth Harris. I'm an architect and designer of New Earth social administrative systems that help humanity to evolve to the fourth octave, or the fifth dimension of consciousness, and I help businesses and organizations to implement these systems into their organizations for the benefit of all. Brilliance in Commerce is a project of La Vérité, which means the truth in French. We have been successfully helping thousands of people to become free from debts and taxes for the past several decades, and it is our greatest joy to be spreading the freedom that America was founded upon and the truth of the world. We are members of the Worldwide Charter for Fair International Commerce. If you haven't seen it yet, you may enjoy giving it a read on our website. For those who need it, please take note of the website and phone number listed here. That's brillianceincommerce.com, and the phone number is 360 200 7521. This webinar series is posted to Will Barney's Rumble account and can be accessed through brilliance-videos.com. You might be familiar with the lies and deceit in the mainstream media. Just make sure to clean your TV with antivirus wipes like this lady, and you too can rid yourself of the various fake news channels. But fortunately, you don't need to worry about that because you are here now to receive the real news with Will Barney. Please allow me to introduce the greatly esteemed Will Barney, a brilliant man who manages to find facts, truths, and articles hidden within official sources, and he does a wonderful job of piecing them all together to reveal to us the big picture of what is really going on in the world and how it impacts us. He beautifully weaves together the story of the unfoldment of higher consciousness on this planet and the coming of freedom, higher attunement with net universal law, and the new quantum financial system, which will become a more sane, fair, equitable, and abundant system for all humankind. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Will Barney. Please take it from here.
Thank you, Seth, for that wonderful introduction. That was great. Appreciate you as always, and for all of you joining us live tonight on the podcast. This is a global update. Here it is, December 18th, and we've got some very interesting things to share with you. As you can see, the title of this particular episode is Christmas Gift to America. We're going to be discussing all of the many ways that good things have been happening in 25. That is a gift to us, all of us, as we move into a new year. So we'll get into some slides and show some of the good news. I want to start with the debt clock first. I usually do. So as we look at the debt clock message, there's several important things that I want to point out here. First of all, look at the money that's coming in from, it's in yellow there, kind of the top left. Money coming in from the tariff revenue. We're now at $370 billion brought in tariffs. This is having a massive impact that I'll discuss a little bit later as we talk about the difference it's making in reducing deficits for the country. On the right there in kind of the red box, we have gold and silver. And it's projecting that the actual price of silver should be in the range of 1,164 an ounce, with a projected 5-year price of 1,500 an ounce. Gold at 92.25, with a 5-year price out at 12,000. That's way different than we are now. But as you will see from when we look at metals, things are on the move big right now. One other thing I wanted to point out on the deck clock right now is the new money creation box there. This is the Treasury dollars, new Treasury dollars. And they actually had a pop-up window when you click on this box, and I'll bring up the window here. This is all about the U.S. Treasury dollars. What is Treasury dollars? So let's read here. In 1862, President Lincoln issued $450 million directly from the U.S. Treasury. These debt-free, interest-free notes were known as greenbacks. Greenbacks were used to pay the soldiers and everybody else that was helping to prosecute the Civil War for the North. On June 4th, in 1963, President Kennedy signed Executive Order 11110, issuing $4.3 billion directly from the U.S. Treasury, bypassing the Federal Reserve Bank. These debt-free, interest-free notes were known as silver certificates, and he did this in cooperation with President Sukarno of Indonesia, known as the Green-Hilton Agreement. This money, of course, was never released, as President Kennedy assassinated before he could do that. The other secret window on the debt clock is this, the Great Jubilee, the wealth transfer. I think this is awesome. This means great things are coming for you and me. What is a Jubilee? Well, Jubilee is basically a zeroing of debts. So we'll have the opportunity here in the future to be able to have debt zero. Now, that isn't all debts. This is only going to cover things that was created by the fiat banking system. If you borrow money from a friend, of course, you would still be obligated for that. But it means that we could see some zeroing of various loans, car loans, house loans, credit cards, these types of things. There's been some testing of the system that's been going throughout the last year and a half, actually about 18 months now, and several people have found mortgages actually zeroed and the bank notified them that they were done. Very isolated cases right now as they were just testing going on. But it would be good news if that came to all of us, wouldn't it? As we get a new financial system. So cool news going on right there with the wealth transfer.
Hey, Will, I apologize for the interruption.
Silver hit $65 an ounce today. This was a tremendous number. I'm showing a 5-year chart here that you look at. But if you go back the previous 24 months to December of 23 up until now, silver has gained 270% in value since then. This is dramatic and is probably a sign of things to come. As the debt clock indicates, silver is massively devalued in its relationship to gold. The final numbers that they're showing for where they think it's going to go is more of a ratio of a 7-to-1. However, it's been sitting recently at about 80-to-1. So obviously silver is really behind. The ratios are way out of whack. If you look at historical data, and we were discussing this last night on John Michael Chambers about how the ratios historically for thousands of years always range somewhere on the low end of maybe 7-to-1 and the high end of 20-to-1. Yet throughout this last 100 years, we've had 30-to-1 and up and even 85-to-1 at one point. So you're looking at ratios that are completely out of the norm or what historically has been done with these metals. So we do expect silver to make a move, continue to make a move to get more in line with proper historical type ratios. This creates a little bit of an issue in that demand for silver is exceeding supply. for the last 5 years, the demand for silver has grown, exceeding the amount that's being mined out of the ground. What this means is that we've been for years now dipping into reserves in order to meet demand for physical silver. So
Hey, Will. Hey, Will, can you
expect
hear
to
me?
see some moves there as corrections are made. The data doesn't lie; it kind of shows where we're at.
Will, can you hear me?
Brad Garlinghouse from Ripple, he's the CEO of Ripple, had this to say. Huge news. Ripple just received additional approval from the USOCC. That's the Office of Comptroller of the Currency. And they are given a charter for the Ripple National Bank. This is big news. They've already have got regulation from the state of New York, who's one of the most highly regulated states in terms of financial services. And now they have the OCC granting National Trust Bank. So this is going to be a big step forward. He says to the banking lobbyists, your anti-competitive tactics are transparent. You've complained that crypto isn't playing by the same rules, but here's the crypto industry directly under the OCC supervision and standards, prioritizing compliance, trust, and innovation for the benefit of the consumers. What are you so afraid of? And he then posted this, which is a post of Jack McDonald, who actually works specifically on this for Ripple. In March on Bloomberg TV, I predicted that the RLUSD would be a top 5 USD stablecoin by EOY, when many in the industry were asking, the world needs another stablecoin. I'll just leave this here. So let's look at what Jack had to say. I'm excited to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of the RLUSD. This is Ripple stablecoin, US dollar stablecoin issued by Ripple. We've gone from 0 to the top 5 in USD stablecoins in record time. Here's some of the key milestones. 1 billion, with RLUSD officially crossed 1 billion in market cap in November of 2025, one of the fastest climbs in regulated stablecoin space. Demand for trust is very real. Compliance first. The OCC conditionally approved Ripple's National Trust Bank Charter by pairing federal oversight with our NYDFS license. We're building the gold standard for enterprise-grade stablecoins. And then 3, institutional infrastructure. BNY Global was selected to be the custody of the RLUSD reserves. What custody means is that they're going to hold the assets that back the US dollar stablecoin by Ripple. These custody instruments are usually treasuries by the US government treasuries. There needs to be a one-to-one relationship between what's backing it and what's issued. And so, in all sense of the term, stablecoins are basically US dollars on blockchain, for those that are not aware. Number 4, bridging RWAs. The RLUSD is a 24/7 off-ramp for BlackRock and Ovanac. B-Bill tokenized the funds via Securitize, deepening the institutional utility, and DBS Bank, FTT Global partnered to enable repo trades for tokenized money market fund, with the RLUSD bringing stablecoin to capital markets. What does all this mean? It means that you're going to see stablecoins replace fiat dollars in the trade of overnight currency swaps, and for those that are lending money in overnight window. This is a big deal. You're going to see more happening with blockchain as other markets, including the stock market, embrace blockchain. Earlier this month, we had the SEC chairman declare that over the next 12 to 24 months, he expected the stock market to completely be tokenized on blockchain, which is feeding right into what we're hearing here from Ripple. Global footprint beyond the USD, RLUSD has secured key recognition in international hubs like Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Multi-chain expansion, the future is interoperable. We're expanding to L2 like Optimism, Base, Link, and Unichain via wormhole standard. This unlocks massive demand for the XRP liquidity across the entire ecosystem. What this means is that all blockchains that are adhering to the ISO standard of reporting are going to be interoperable with all other chains. You're going to see a digital connection made with all the different chains using these products. So pretty exciting what Ripple's doing. They just keep making news. Just so that the U.S. isn't the only ones in the news today, we do have this coming out of Japan. Take a listen. It is in Japanese.
週間かで
That's the
裁判所の結論が出ると彼は考えてるみたいです。結論が出て、リップルの XRP がコインだということになると、これは大変な値段になると思います。我々外部の筆頭株主ですから、まあ大変なキャピタルゲイン、売ればキャピタルゲインでリアライズされますけど、売れなくても相当なものになるだろうというふうに評価軸をですね、思ってます。多分、結論がポジティブに出ればすぐ。
So what I wanted to point out there from Japan is they are the largest holder of XRP outside of the US. And they're saying this is being approved by the courts and the world. And so they expect it to gain in tremendous value. So very interesting things going on there. This came from President Trump, switching gears now to some of the. Venezuela is completely surrounded by the largest armada ever assembled in the history of South America. It will only get bigger, and the shock to them will be like nothing they have ever seen before. Until such time as they return to the United States of America, all of the oil, land, and other assets that they have previously stole from us. The illegitimate Maduro regime is using oil from these stolen oil fields to finance themselves. Drug, terrorism, human trafficking, murder, and kidnappings, for the theft of our assets and many other reasons, including terrorism, drug smuggling, and human trafficking. The Venezuelan regime has been designated a foreign terrorist organization. Therefore, today I am ordering a total and complete blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers going into and out of Venezuela. The illegal aliens and criminals that the Maduro regime has sent to the United States during the weak and inept Biden administration are being returned to Venezuela at a rapid pace. America will not allow criminals, terrorists, or other countries to rob, threaten, or harm our nation, and likewise will not allow a hostile regime to take our oil, land, and any other assets. All of them must be returned to the United States immediately. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So many that were watching the news saw that the U.S. military did seize one of the oil tankers. Another post from Donald Trump. For years, Democrats ignored violent and vicious crime of all shapes, sizes, colors, and types. Violent criminals should have been locked up and allowed, but they were allowed to attack again. Democrats were also far too happy to let in the worst of the worst countries so that they could rip off American taxpayers. Democrats only think there is one crime, not voting for them. Instead of protecting Americans with their tax dollars, Democrats chose instead to prosecute anyone they could find that wanted safe and secure elections. Democrats have been relentless in their targeting of Tina Peters, a patriot who simply wanted to make sure that our elections were fair and honest. Tina is sitting in a Colorado prison for the crime of demanding honest elections. Today, I am granting Tina a full pardon for her attempts to expose voter fraud in the rigged 2020 election. I did hear from a source last night, as Osama John Michael Chambers, and he did reveal to me last night that Tina has been released from jail. She is safe and sound. Thank you, President Trump, for taking this action. Next, from Trump, this was also posted on Truth Social. Trump files a powerhouse $10 billion lawsuit against the BBC. Trump, the documentary editing of his January 6 remarks. So the BBC edited what he said, put it out there, and now he's suing them for $10 billion. I'm pretty certain that particular news media out of the UK, doesn't have $10 billion. Looks like he's trying to bankrupt them for false reporting. We'll see what happens. So let's take a look at the Trump administration and all the good things they're reporting. For those that were watching, Trump held a broadcast last night for the nation. It wasn't long, but 18, 19 minutes, and he talked about all the good things that have been done throughout this year and some surprises, which we'll get into. I want to start first with Tulsi Gabbard. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard drops a bomb. I've got a long list of things that we're investigating. We have the best of the best going after election integrity is being. There is now evidence that electronic voting machines have been tampered with to manipulate election outcomes in the United States, as we witness the overthrow of the U.S. government on November 3rd, 2020. We have evidence of how these electronic voting systems have been vulnerable to hackers for a very long time and vulnerable to exploitation to manipulate the results of the votes being cast, which further drives forward your mandate to bring about paper ballots across the country so the voters can have faith in the integrity of our elections. The report says that Dominion deleted 2.7 million Trump votes nationwide. Data analysis finds 221,000 Pennsylvania votes were switched from President Trump to Biden. 941,000 Trump votes were deleted. States using Dominion voting systems switched 435,000 votes from Trump to Biden. So now we have, they're declaring they have evidence of actual vote flipping by the machines themselves. This is big news.
I've got a long list of things that we're investigating. We have the best of the best going after this. Election integrity being one of them. We have evidence of how these electronic voting systems have been vulnerable to hackers for a very long time and vulnerable to exploitation to manipulate the results of the votes being cast, which further drives forward your mandate to bring about paper ballots across the country so that voters can have faith in the integrity of our elections.
So there you hear it directly from Tulsi. The head of the SBA had this to say, and Kelly's doing such a great job. The Biden administration created $6 trillion worth of new regulations that drove up the cost for small businesses and in return drove 40-year high inflation that crushed the consumer. Today, the SBA is launching a new deregulation strike force to eliminate the red tape and deliver meaningful relief in key industries to lower prices for families and job creators. If you're a small business, help us cut the burdensome regulations by reporting them to our red tape hotline. So they're getting very serious about cutting out all the things keeping people back from prospering in the nation, especially small business. Howard Lutnick from the Commerce Department had a few things to share. President Trump's first 11 months in office have brought wages up and prices down. Our work is never over, but here are a few with accomplishments. Negotiated significantly lower prices on major pharmaceuticals for the first time ever, delivering dramatically lower drug prices for Americans. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security means more money directly in working Americans' pockets next year. Trillions in new investment to manufacture semiconductors, steel, autos, pharmaceuticals, and more here at home, setting up the greatest hiring boom in American history. Opened markets around the world so that for the first time, U.S. producers can access global markets. For example, finally, you can have a Maine lobster dinner in the UK and sell unlimited U.S. cars in Korea. $750 billion from Japan and Korea is being invested in building American energy production, which will drive down the price of electricity across America and create hundreds of thousands of jobs. In another statement, he said this: President Trump has secured a transformational critical minerals deal that strengthens our national security and rebuilds industrial base, ends our dependence on foreign supply chains. Today, we announce a major investment with Korea Zinc to build a state-of-the-art critical minerals smelter and processing facility in Tennessee. It will produce 540,000 tons per year of essential minerals right here in America. These minerals power the technologies that matter most for our future: defense systems, semiconductors, AI, quantum computing, autos, data center, and advanced manufacturing. So investments coming in from around the world. This is what's holding inflation down for us right now. A lot of people are wondering, why is it that we're having such incredible results um, with inflation coming down? I reported in the last report that projected inflation next year was as low as 2.6% projected, because the last 2 months it has been dropping precipitously to about 0.5% per month and still going down. The reason this can happen is because we're not printing dollars. Instead, what we're doing is we're bringing investment of dollars that are held overseas by other countries and bringing that investment home. So we're still bringing money into the country. We're just not printing it. This allows us to do the expansion that we're doing to rebuild, but at the same time, keep those inflation numbers low and in check. So that's pretty cool. All right. One more thing here from this comes from the senator of Kentucky. Korea Zinc's decision to build a world-class critical minerals refinery in our state is not just an economic victory, it's a geostrategic one that directly supports President Trump's efforts to restore American economic security in partnership with trusted allies like South Korea. So this is going to be big for the state of Tennessee. Congratulations, Tennessee. The Secretary of Education, McMahon, shared this. The U.S. EDGov is launching the Presidential 1776 Award. This is if high school students can engage in a friendly competition and show off their knowledge of the great nation's founding ideals. History buffs can receive scholarships totaling $250,000. Game on. So they're challenging the youth of America to start learning more about their country, and they're going to be giving scholarships away. That's a big deal. She also posted this 2 years ago. Not a single student had filled out the FAFSA because of the Biden administration's failures. For those that don't know what that is federal aid, such as Pell Grants and other grants for people to attend college. As of today, more than 5 million aspiring students have completed the FSA form, a historic win for American students and their families. So that's pretty cool. The government's helping the students get the college education they want. Secretary of Agriculture shared this, Brooke Rollins. The final trade data is in for the government fiscal year 2025, and the America First trade agenda is putting points on the board. Several key wins. Corn exports up 29%, dairy exports up 15%, tree nut exports up 11%, ethanol exports up 11%, and horticultural exports up 2%. So this is big. This is year over year compared to 2024. She also shared this, which is a big deal. The Mexican government has agreed to release 202,000 acre-feet of water to the U.S. starting this week. Under my strong leadership alongside Secretary Rollins and POTUS, Mexico will deliver over 500,000 acre-feet of water, more water in 1 year than in the previous 4 years combined. So Mexico is now honoring their agreements with the sharing of water, and this will help the farmers, particularly in the southern region around Texas. Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, had this to share, contracts update. Over the last 5 days, agencies terminated and de-scoped 55 wasteful contracts with a ceiling value of 1.6 B and savings of $233 million, including a $3.1 million DOE professional support contract for customized help and expertise on energy resilience for states, and a $2.4 million DOW consulting contract for strategic transformation enterprise project support. So DOGE keeps cutting the fat in places where it's not even doing anything for our nation and saving us money. Good. We got to bring those deficits down. So as we look at other good news that's going on here, this is awesome. 38 U.S. states, now under $3 a gallon. Pretty big. It's the bulk of America. You see there's a few states still on the board that are still over $3, but we're getting down to the 290s. And in some states over this last week, gasoline prices dropped to $1.99. So that's some of the lowest we've seen in a very, very long time. Secretary Doug Burgum shared this: promises made, promises kept. Gas prices are at a multi-year low. Inflation is falling. Real wages are up. Mining is back. America's the #1 LNG exporter. Public lands are at work for the taxpayers, and DC is now safe. So Doug Burgum is as the head of Interior. What he is in charge of is all the federal lands that is not publicly owned. So you're talking about national parks, you're talking about BLM land. It even includes the 100 miles off the shore of the country, all the way around it. It's also considered part of the country. So when new companies want to drill for oil or they want to mine for minerals, those leases are all paid to the Department of Interior. In this case, it's going to go right into the newly formed this year sovereign wealth fund that will become an income stream. That's why he says public lands are at work for taxpayers. They're monetizing these assets in a way that brings income into the country so that we can reduce taxation on the citizens themselves. Doug went on to say this: the USBR is directing up to 58 billion more gallons of fresh water to California's Central Valley farmland rather than dumping it into the ocean. This means more water for our farmers and more affordable food for Americans. Unlike California leadership, POTUS puts America first. So we're going to see more water put into the valley, and we'll have more crops grown. That'll be great. Another thing here that Eric shared this. Holy crap, the White House just stunned fake news. Margaret Brennan. Let's listen to what they're saying about
evidence is mixed, but the point is that we've got deficit going way down. So right now it's looking like the deficit for this year will be $600 billion lower than it was last year. That really helps lower inflation. We've got the trade deficit cut in half from last year. Mm-hmm. And so all of these things are things that should continue to move us towards the Fed target of 2%.
So that's amazing. 600 billion decrease in deficits. What is a deficit? Deficit is the difference between what we're spending and what we're bringing in. And in the past, that deficit meant we had to keep borrowing money to meet it. Now that we're reducing those deficits, there seems to be a strong push to getting to a balanced budget where we don't run any deficits whatsoever. In fact, we may start having instead a surplus, which allows us then to begin paying down debt. So big news there. Thank you, Kevin, for that. Let's look at healthcare now. The HHS has been very busy. Robert Kennedy has been on a roll to restructure healthcare and make it more healthy for everyone. I want you to listen to this message. We're going to listen to the whole thing because I think it's important for time which we.
Hi, I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr., your HHS Secretary.
And I'm Alex Adams. I'm the Assistant Secretary for the Administration for Children and Families.
We're here today to talk about a development that speaks to the very heart of our work, protecting children from systems that lose sight of their best interests. At HHS, our guiding principle is simple. Every child deserves a home and a fair chance to thrive. When state agencies stack the deck against children, we step in.
That's exactly right, Secretary Kennedy. What we've seen at the state level is in 39 states, when a child's parents die and that child enters foster care, that child is entitled to the survivor's benefit that those parents had earned. What 39 states are doing is they're taking those dollars from those foster youth and using those to offset state agency costs. It is wrong. And that's why we are notifying 39 states today of that practice and asking them to end this nationwide.
So they're taking the benefits that ought to go to the child, and they're taking it for the state bureaucracy.
That's exactly right. These were earned benefits that the parent had earned through participation in the workforce or other survivors' benefits. When I served as the director of the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare, I saw firsthand the tragedy that happens in our foster care system. Too many youth age out to homelessness. Too many youth lose resources that they could have used to set themselves up for lifelong success. I ended that practice in Idaho, and I'm here with Secretary Kennedy's leadership to stop this practice across every state.
Taking decisive action like this is why I asked Alex to come to Washington, and he has hit the ground running. He recently repealed 2,000 pages of outdated sub-regulatory guidance because rules should serve children and not bury them in bureaucracy.
My team also launched a national initiative aimed at right-sizing the ratio of foster homes to children in foster care. Today, there are 57 foster homes for every 100 foster children. We're partnering with states to change that. We're cutting red tape so agencies can spend less time on paperwork and more time on what matters, kids.
In the Trump administration, we're committed to ensuring that every child in America has the chance to reach their full potential. Thank you for your service, Alex.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
This is, I think,
by
good news, because for a long time, many of the youth, as they age out, were just left with nothing. It was actually appalling to learn that states were taking the money that was survivor benefits from their parents and was actually using it for themselves instead of setting it aside for these children. So I'm really glad that that's being taken care of. Secretary Kennedy shared this. Another Maha win. Thank you to Walmart, the largest grocer and food retailer in the country, for committing to remove synthetic food dyes and 30 other ingredients from their store brand foods and beverages. So again, getting chemical dyes, chemical additives taken out of our food supply. Senator Ron Johnson shared this. Let's properly define the problem. Now, this is about healthcare. We're talking about continuing temporary COVID-era enhanced subsidies that have led to massive fraud. The original Obamacare subsidies will continue for all but 1.6 million people on the exchanges. Fixing that would cost a couple $2 billion, which we could find offsets to pay for. But we must first acknowledge the reality. Premiums are rising because of the flawed design of Obamacare. The solution is consumerism and free market competition. For many that have been watching, Trump has been talking about ending the subsidy of the insurance companies and just sending the money back to people and let people find their own insurance, which would be more competitive. Donald Trump had this to share. Numbers recently released show that tariffs have reduced the trade deficit of the United States by more than half. This is larger than anyone except me projected and will only get stronger in the near future. Everybody should pray the United States Supreme Court has the wisdom and genius to allow tariffs to guard our nation, our financial freedom. There are evil, America hating forces against us. We cannot let them prevail. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again. And right on cue, the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, shared this. Thanks to President Trump, the health of the U.S. government's finances is improving. The current calendar year deficit of 1.52 trillion, which compares to a deficit of 1.93 trillion for the comparable period last year under Biden, is a 21% drop. Not only is the deficit smaller under President Trump, the economy is bigger. The full 2025 calendar year budget deficit to GDP may total only 5.5%, substantially lower than the unsustainably high 6.8% the year earlier under Biden. Under POTUS's leadership, we'll continue to grow our way out of debt and into prosperity. He continued in another post, egregious fraud in Minnesota has cost taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars, including funds sent to Somalia through money services businesses, which provide financial services outside of a formal bank. Under POTUS's leadership, the U.S. Treasury will not stop until we fully investigate this deeply disturbing scam. To that end, Treasury will soon issue a geographic targeting order subjecting certain money services businesses to enhanced reporting requirements with FinCEN. This important tool will be used to make sure that the information regarding any such illicit activity is quickly reported to FinCEN News and made available to our law enforcement partners. This will empower investigators to develop additional leads through increased scrutiny on funds going to the areas of concern such as Somalia. and other Treasury personnel are on the ground working hard to uncover the facts. FinCEN will soon be issuing notices of investigations to the MSBs of concern, and I will report that IRS News will be examining the businesses. Under President Trump, we will not stop till we fully investigate, analyze, and permanently end the massive fraud ring. There's been several articles written over the last 2 weeks about massive fraud that's been occurring in Minnesota involving Somalians and the use of taxpayer money for citizens for various programs being used on those non-citizens. And so you're going to see probably more about that coming up. Treasury Secretary went on to say, Trump accounts are POTUS's gift to the American people. They represent perhaps the most groundbreaking policy innovation of modern time, and they are shaped by a simple vision. Every American is shareholder. Listen to what it's saying.
Generation of Americans is about to learn in the most life-changing way possible how even small contributions can become generational wealth. And it's all thanks to President Trump. Trump accounts are the president's gift to the American people. They represent perhaps the most groundbreaking policy innovation of modern times, and they are shaped by a simple vision. Every American a shareholder. When every American owns a share of the most powerful economy on earth, every American will benefit from our nation's growth. Every American will capture a portion of the productivity gains brought about by AI, robotics, and other world-changing technologies. And every American will be invested in the free market system, and most importantly, its continued success. Trump accounts are not a government program. They are a radically new platform that returns us to a social contract anchored in individual ownership where everyone starts life on an investing journey. By giving each newborn citizen a material stake in the American dream through Trump accounts, President Trump is minting future investors on every rung of the economic ladder. He is embedding financial literacy and empowering today's youth to shape their own financial future. And he is creating an ownership economy to secure the American experiment for a new generation and the next.
So remember, we were talking about the U.S. debt clock, talking about the new dividend dollar coming out. Secretary Benson keeps continuing talking about shareholder stake. What does that mean, shareholder stake? What it means is that the assets of the country technically belong to each of the citizens of the country, and that should be used to support those citizens. So what's going to happen for this year and the next 3 years during the Trump administration, the government's going to contribute $1,000 to each child born during this time. If they access that money at the age of 18 for college or other purposes, they'll have quite a bit of money there that they can utilize. If they don't touch that money and just let it grow to retirement age, it could be $600,000 by the time they retire. That's free money that otherwise wouldn't be there for these babies when they get to that age. It's tremendous. If the Trump accounts are maximized, and we saw how the Dales were contributing to this in our last global update, what you could see is as much as 190,000 available at the age of 18 for college, or maybe to start a business, depending on what the people seek to do. But the powerful thing is we're investing in our future, we're investing in the next generation, and keeping that going. And I think you will see more of these topics as we go forward. I love that he calls it everyone being a stakeholder in progress. And he mentioned AI in there. You know, one of the things that happened a week or so ago when Trump had his cabinet meeting is it was reported by the Department of Commerce that the 10% stake in Intel that was given to the sovereign wealth fund of the country has grown and gained nearly $30 billion in value just since that agreement was first struck. That's amazing. That means that all the assets of the country are continuing to grow. That's why the U.S. debt clock will call this a dividend dollar, because instead of the dollar losing value, everything that backs it is gaining value and gaining income year by year as it's monetized. That means that you could have an increase of value in the money, unlike what we've seen over the last 120 years of the deflationary aspect. The Federal Reserve note has lost 96.5% of its value since it was issued. That means it's worth 3.5 cents right now from what it was in 1913. To get a asset-backed currency where it actually gains value because the assets backing it are constantly gaining value is absolutely tremendous change in the economics of our nation. I'm so excited about 26. The things that are coming this next year to bring all of this into reality for us is going to be tremendous. So awesome what's happening. The Treasury of Transportation, Secretary Sean Duffy, shared this. This was actually pretty cool. General Motors has produced a special Corvette, okay? Introducing the Stars and Steel Corvette, celebrating America's 250th birthday, and GM's Explorer 250 app would maps out all the best places to visit. Hey, listen. Oop. Oh, where's my video? Oh, I didn't have the video for that. Too bad. Sorry. You guys missed out. He actually takes a drive in the Corvette and shows the app. It's really cool. General Motors is going to have in their cars 250 locations throughout the entire country that are historical locations that pay homage to our history and where we've come from. And it's going to be fun because it's going to be some people that even come from other countries to visit as part of our anniversary. They can rent a GM car and they can go on a road trip and they can go visit each of these places with waypoints already pre-programmed into the GPS system. So it's kind of cool. In other news, Sean Duffy shared this. We're unveiling the first ever national strategy for advanced air mobility. And this is big because it's even beyond airplanes.
Aviation is changing and changing very quickly. And the question becomes, are we going to continue to lead in aviation? And we're going to look at eVTOLs and drones and supersonic flight. All are radically changing at this moment in time. And the country and the companies that are the greatest innovators are the ones that are going to win. So that's why we're here today. Today we're unveiling the first ever national strategy for advanced air mobility.
Okay, so you mentioned something called eVTOLs there. For those that don't know, an eVTOL is an electric aerial vehicle. It's much like a drone. You've seen these drones with cameras on them, but large enough to carry people, right? And they can take you from place to place throughout a city, and be doctored, charged, type of thing. So it's like air taxis. So the cool thing about this is they're changing the entire air structure of how we manage our airspace to allow room for these other types of vehicles to be used. It'll also mean that we're going to see delivery drones used in greater abundance. So you order something online, maybe Amazon or whatever, it may be delivered by a drone to your front door rather than a person because the technology is now existing to do that. So America is upgrading all of its systems. And we had a conversation a couple of days ago. I was on up front with the prophetic, and we were discussing changes that are being made in air traffic control within our nation. We've already increased the number of people in air traffic school by 20% over previous years. And 1/3 of all the copper that was being utilized in airports across the country has already been switched out to fiber optic now. We still got 2/3 to go, but we made a big dent in upgrading each of these airports. So Sean Duffy is really running on all cylinders trying to get our system updated. He says what we're going to do is we're going to have one big system that all airports run on the same software system. So this will allow every airport to communicate with every other airport, and they'll all have new advanced radar systems installed as part of the software. And it allows everything to be tracked from ocean to ocean. It's technically a part of our Golden Dome system, where all the airspace is being tracked and monitored over a series of radars across all the airports of the country, creating full coverage of the entire nation. It's actually amazing what's coming in. It'll take 2 to 3 years, I think, for installation to get this done. Could be the end of this Trump presidency before it's finished, but we'll have one of the most advanced air traffic systems in the world when it's over. It's really cool. Let me back up here to Secretary Rubio, because he doesn't stop either. My goodness, he's on it. So today, Foreign Minister Ramirez and I marked a new era in the U.S.-Paraguay relationship with the signing of the Status of Forces Agreement by establishing a framework for the activities of U.S. military and Department of War civilian personnel in Paraguay. This agreement opens new doors for our collective efforts to advance security and stability in our hemisphere. So Rubio continues to reach out and to make new agreements with other countries, increasing cooperation defensively and economically. So he's doing a great job there. Rubio shared this. President Trump has assured the American people that it can live in excuse me, I got my glasses a little bit too small. That can live in a nation that is loyal to its citizens, faithful to its workers, and confident to its identity, certain to its destiny and the envy of the entire globe. Because of his leadership, we are strong again. And that is so true in many, many ways. I hope you're getting the message tonight. Every single department of this administration is delivering incredible results. I've never seen anything like it in my lifetime. I don't think I've seen a more effective presidency. Glasses again. Minute 333. This is for Lee Zeldin. He's the EPA secretary, okay, administrator. Minute 333 does not obligate any new U.S. taxpayer funding. Every project we complete in a minute over the course of 2026 and 2027, as well as the project schedule for 2020 completion, along with other items previously agreed upon in July memorandum of understanding I signed in Mexico City, will end this human health crisis for good. The Trump administration is working diligently to end the foul odors, reopen the beaches, and reverse the degradation of the Tijuana River Valley that many have unfortunately grown accustomed to over the decades. So what's been happening is sewage from Tijuana, Mexico, has been dumping into the river. It goes right out into the ocean, washes up onto the beaches of San Diego, and this is a real problem. So Mexico is now working with our country to stop this, clean it up. Let's have nice, clean waterways again. And they're actually on a large infrastructure project that's taking place to clean up the Tijuana sewer system so that it's no longer just being dumped openly. The Green News scam is dead, Lee says. And listen to this little segment from last night, Trump's address.
Another major focus is the cost of energy. For years, the radical left Democrats exploited the green energy scam as an excuse to funnel many billions of dollars into their own massive slush funds, as their energy restrictions drastically drove up prices, and they drove them up at record levels. Electricity costs surged 30 to 100% under Biden, and the typical family lost $5,000 to $10,000 in higher energy costs. Think of that, $5,000 to $10,000 you lost. On day one, I declared a national energy emergency.
So all the Green New scam is over. We're now bringing energy to everybody and building new plants. I don't think I have a slide of this, but it's actually planned that over the next couple of years, for there to be an increase of 1,600 new electrical plants throughout America to bring on new capacity and new opportunity. This will help with all the new factories going in and give us the energy capacity we need. Nick Sorter shared this. Breaking, President Trump announced he is signing an executive order to classify fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. No bomb does what this is doing. 200 to 300,000 die every year. That we know. And now that fentanyl is designated, okay, as a weapon of mass destruction, it means that the war against drugs and the attacks on these boats carrying the drugs going to continue. This takes everything right out of the way that people could say was controversial. And it says, if you're moving large-scale drugs to the United States, we will bomb you because of weapon of mass destruction. So this presidency is not messing around. It goes right along with the increased presence around Venezuela by the U.S. military, the blockade that's happening there. And I expect to see some more of that. We can probably be certain that these drug cartels that have been doing this for many years will try to use it perhaps over land, which might require a different strategy.
Fentanyl flooding into our country. With this historic executive order I will sign today, we're formally classifying fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction, which is what it is. No bomb does what this is doing. 200 to 300,000 people die every year that we know of. So we're formally classifying fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. But before.
So big stuff going on there as Trump continues to try to stop the onslaught, the attack against the nation, both from within and without. 21st century upgrade using state-of-the-art crypto technology. This is a previous video. I wanted to play this again to remind you of statements the president's made about our financial system and what could be coming in terms of upgrade. Listen.
Many Americans are unaware that behind the scenes, the technical backbone of the financial system is decades out of date, many years out of date. You know that. Paul and others are straightening it out, but payments and money transfers are costly and take days or even weeks to clear. Under this bill, the entire ancient system will be eligible for a 21st century upgrade using the state-of-the-art crypto technology. Who would have thought we would have been saying that 2 years after?
So, state-of-the-art crypto technology. So here we go, folks. We're getting blockchain coming quickly. Carolyn Levitt shared this. The Trump administration launches U.S. Tech Force. Remember the first administration, he launched Space Force. Well, now he's launched U.S. Tech Force. Recruits top talent to modernize the federal government. Let's learn a little more about that. Breitbart had this to share. Trump administration launches U.S. Tech Force, recruits top talent to modernize the federal government. Trump administration launched the United States Tech Force on Monday, talked about recruiting talent to modernize its federal government. And it just keeps going. The New York Times said that modernization of the federal tech stack is one great development. Product manager, data scientist, and AI expert at the same time. You can apply at techforce.gov. They're looking for 200 of the most advanced people in digital computerized technology to help the government update all the systems. They want to make the U.S. government the most advanced technologically country in the world. In the past, the government was running on old servers. COBOL was being used, which was even before MS-DOS. And now everything's being upgraded. Do you remember when Trump gave his inauguration address at his very first speech in January of 2017? He talked about hundreds of technologies that would be coming forward, that the country would be given back to you, the people. This is a fulfillment of that, as we're about to rebuild the entirety of the digital infrastructure of our nation with the latest in technology, including AI and other items. So this is going to be interesting to see as this plays out. I hope they get some of the best and brightest to work on this project. I'm going to skip this one, go right to the video. This was shared by the U.S. Tech Force official channel on X. So let's watch the video.
There was a moment when civilization hung in the balance. We called the best minds to the Manhattan Project. Scientists, engineers, builders. They answered, and America prevailed. 80 years later, a new call, Our safeguards, our services, our systems, all run on code. Outdated. Time to rebuild what holds us together. For national security, for the future of America. 2 years, one mission. Defense, state, health, finance, benefits, modern bulletproof systems. You don't patch old code. You dismantle, rebuild. America's coding renaissance. A fellowship for the driven, guided by pioneers. They ignite. You carry the flame. When you graduate, private giants don't wait. They pursue. They need you. Because you are now the Navy SEALs of coding. Join us. Your country needs you.
So Tech Force, so they want to completely rebuild all the digital infrastructure of our nation on all forms of each government agency in the next 2 years. It's a very big initiative. I think that they will find that they can achieve this goal. And I can't wait to see the young people step forward with the computer skills to help make this happen. And it's an exciting time as we rebuild our entire infrastructure. You can bet this will only be the beginning as advanced transportation comes on board and other things in the coming year. RSBN shared this. Speaker Johnson claims that Republicans will work to codify up to 150 of the President Trump's executive orders. This means that Congress is going to get busy and they're going to make it law. Let's hope the Senate works with the House. This was some interesting news that came out. If you remember, a few years ago, Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate got raided in Florida for whatever reasons. Now we're finding out the reasons were completely invalid. Listen to what was shared here on hand.
All right, another bombshell revelation today shows just how weaponized the DOJ was under Joe Biden. Now, shocking new memos turned over to Congress today, well, reveal that the FBI warned the DOJ repeatedly they did not have probable cause for that raid at Mar-a-Lago. But under pressure from Biden's weaponized DOJ, they conducted the raid anyway. Among the shocking revelations, including one email revealing the FBI field office did not believe and articulated this to the DOJ. They had, quote, established probable cause for the search warrant for classified records at Mar-a-Lago. Despite this, another agent wrote, quote, DOJ has opined that they do have probable cause, requesting a wide scope, including residence, office, storage space. One official even warned that the information they had was just from a single source, not corroborated, and may have even been dated. Earlier today, on a post on X, FBI Director Kash Patel did confirm the documents, writing in part, quote, we just turned over documents to Capitol Hill to be made public, showing that the FBI told DOJ that they did not have probable cause for raiding President Trump's home at Mar-a-Lago, but DOJ didn't give a damn. They did it anyway. Here at the very latest, justthenews.com, founder, editor-in-chief, and chief investigative reporter John Solomon. And remember, John, the FBI had access that was given to them by President Trump and his team, open access to the Mar-a-Lago. After they left, they called and said, by the way, would you put another lock on one particular storage room? They complied. Nothing would have prevented them from coming back anytime they wanted, but no probable cause?
Yeah, well, that's what these emails show. First, they show that the Trump administration or the Trump team and his lawyer were cooperating. And in fact, the FBI wanted to leverage that cooperation and create a amicable solution that didn't involve a raid. The Justice Department said they weren't interested in making accommodations like that. Then the FBI told the Justice Department, the Biden Justice Department, that it didn't have probable cause, that the information they had was outdated, single source, couldn't be corroborated. They didn't have true evidence that President Trump himself may have been the source of a crime. And the Justice Department said, we disagree. We're going to go ahead with it. The FBI continued to fight back, saying, we don't think there's probable cause. You certainly can't go to President Trump's office, or you certainly can't go to his bedroom and do it. And the Justice Department response was, you know what? We're going to expand the search. What you see here is a potential Fourth Amendment violation of President Trump's civil liberties. And this is significant, not just from a historical standpoint. A couple of weeks ago, Sean, I interviewed the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights, and that's Harmeet Dillon. And she said that she is looking at the possibility of bringing criminal charges from anyone who tried to deny President Trump or one of President Trump's supporters their civil rights. That means this evidence, which, by the way, is still in the statute of 5 years, could potentially be prosecutable, or certainly go to the question of whether there should be a prosecution separately. And President Trump has shown he's not afraid to sue. I just asked the BBC, who found out that this week again. President Trump might have a very good suit, according to the legal experts I talked, that his civil liberties were infringed by the Justice Department. So this revelation is not just a history.
So there's evidence pouring out now that not only was there not enough evidence to actually pursue the raid, that it was done because of political motivations coming from the Biden administration, and the entire case is open that Trump could sue for the violation of his civil liberties. So this is big news, and I think this is only beginning of news like this that you're going to find out, where overstep was done everywhere against people, and that they're going to have a right to retaliate. Dan Bongino shared this. I will be leaving my position with the FBI in January. I want to thank President Trump, AG Bondi, Director Patel, the opportunity to serve with purpose. Most importantly, I want to thank you, my fellow Americans, for the privilege to serve you. God bless America and all those who defend her. So he is resigning in January and probably getting back to his podcast, I would imagine. Let's see what he said here on Fox News.
I gave up everything for this. I mean, you know, my wife is struggling. I'm not a victim. I'm not Jim Comey. It's fine. I did this and I'm proud I did it. But if you think we're there for tea and crumpets, well, I mean, Cash is there all day. We share it. Our offices are linked. He turns on the faucet. I hear it. He's there he gets in at like 6 o'clock in the morning. He doesn't leave till 7 at night. You know, I'm in there at 7:30 in the morning. He uses the gym. I work out in my apartment, but I stare at these four walls all day in DC, you know, by myself, divorced from my wife, not divorced, but I mean, separated, divorced. And it's hard. I mean, you know, we love each other and it's hard to be apart.
But you're doing some great work. You're straighting out the FBI, you're moving buildings. There's a lot of change.
So Dan Bongino is leaving public service. I want to thank you, Dan, for all the work that you did. I think it's great. President Trump had this comment to say about Dan.
Oh, Dan did a great job. I think he wants to go back to his show. Yeah.
Thinks he wants to go back to his show. I think it's hard when your family's in one city and you're in another. It can't be an easy thing. Breaking in a huge move, HHS Secretary JFK Jr. takes major action to ban transgender sex changes for children nationwide. Protected children, this is common sense. I signed a declaration stating that sex rejection procedures are neither safe nor effective for children with gender dysphoria. Medical professionals and entities providing sex rejecting procedures to children are out of compliance with these standards. And it goes on beyond him.
That violate their sacred Hippocratic oath by endangering the very lives that they are sworn to safeguard. The American Medical Association, the American Academy of Pediatrics, peddled the lie that chemical and surgical sex rejecting procedures could be good for children who suffer from gender dysphoria. They betrayed the estimated 300,000 American youth ages just 13 to 17, conditioned to believe that sex can be changed. They betrayed their Hippocratic oath to do no harm. So-called gender-affirming care has inflicted lasting physical and psychological damage on vulnerable young people. This is not medicine, it is malpractice. We're done with junk science driven by ideological pursuits, not the well-being of children. A peer-reviewed report published by the HHS Office of the Assistant Secretary for Health last month confirms that sex-rejecting procedures impose medical dangers and lasting harm on children who receive these interventions. So today we are taking 6 decisive actions guided by gold standard science and the week 1 executive order from President Trump to protect children from chemical and surgical mutilation.
In the interest of time, I'm going to move on, but basically, any procedure to a minor to change their sex is no longer approved. The Department of Medicaid and Medicare has discontinued all money for anything of the sort. And this is a major change that's just occurred. Let's move on. Carolyn Levitt had this to say. I've just been informed that the highly respected board of the Kennedy Center, some of the most successful people from all parts of the world, have just voted unanimously to rename the Kennedy Center to the Trump Kennedy Center because of the unbelievable work President Trump has done over the last year in saving the building, not only from the standpoint of its reconstruction, but also financially and its reputation. Congratulations to President Donald J. Trump, and likewise congratulations to President Kennedy, because this will be truly a great team long into the future. The building will no doubt attain new levels of success and grandeur. So JFK and Trump will both have their names on the building now. Donald Trump posted this 2 days ago, and last night he gave a speech, 18 minutes long. I suggest everybody watch that. He kind of recapped some of the positive things that occurred this year, and he had some neat things to share for the veterans. And I thought this was awesome. So let's take a look at this.
Bill. Tonight, I am also proud to announce that more than 1,450,000, think of this, 1,450,000 military service members will receive a special, we call Warrior Dividend before Christmas, a Warrior Dividend in honor of our nation's founding in 1776. We are sending every soldier $1,776. Think of that. And the checks are already on the way. Nobody understood that one until about 30 minutes ago. We made a...
So that's a great news for all the military. I think it's awesome that he's delivering this gift to the military, because for the last many years, they have been on the front lines of restoring this nation. Most of it unreported, most of it behind the scenes, most of it you don't know about. But it's been going on nonetheless. And the fact that he's rewarding these families, I think, for the job they've done is certainly good. Now, I know there's a lot of other Americans that are also hurting, could really use help. I do think that help's going to be coming in the coming months. But the Patriots have been on the front line. I'm glad that the soldiers were given this gift. I think Secretary of War had this to say about this, or about chaplains and the importance of chaplains in the military. And he wants to restore the chaplaincy corps to its former glory so that the soldiers have the help that they need.
I'm here to I'm the integral backbone of our nation's forces. George Washington established the Chaplain Corps in 1775, one of his first actions as General of the Continental Army. Congress authorized chaplains for the Navy that very same year. In Washington's general orders, he explained their importance, quote, "The blessing and protection of heaven are at all times necessary, but especially so in times of public distress and danger." For about 200 years, the Chaplain Corps continued its role as the spiritual leader of our service members, serving our men and women in times of hardship and ministering to their souls. But sadly, as part of the ongoing war on warriors, in recent decades, its role has been degraded. In an atmosphere of political correctness and secular humanism, chaplains have been minimized, viewed by many as therapists instead of ministers. Faith and virtue were traded for self-help and self-care. If you need proof, just look at the current Army Spiritual Fitness Guide. In well over 100 pages, it mentions God one time. That's it. It mentions feelings 11 times. It even mentions playfulness, whatever that is, 9 times. There's zero mention of virtue. The guide relies on New Age notions, saying that the soldier's spirit consists of consciousness, creativity, and connection. The guide itself reports that around 82% of the military are religious, yet ironically, it alienates our warfighters of faith by pushing secular humanism. In short, it's unacceptable and unserious, so we're tossing it. I have a directive right here that I will sign today to eliminate the use of the Army Spiritual Fitness Guide effective immediately. These types of training materials have no place in the War Department. Our chaplains are chaplains, not emotional support officers, and we're going to treat them as such. That's why today at my direction, we are also simplifying the faith and belief coding system. In recent years, it ballooned to over 200 overly complex faith and belief codes. An overwhelming majority of the military population only uses 6 codes. 11 are not used by anyone. So we're going to streamline it and move it to a new list of religious affiliation codes so that our chaplains can actually use it to minister better to the flock. More reforms will be coming in the days and weeks ahead. There will be a top-down cultural shift, putting spiritual well-being on the same footing as mental and physical health, as a first step toward creating a supportive environment for our warriors and their souls. We're going to restore the esteemed position of chaplains as moral anchors for our fighting force. The 1956 Army Chaplains Manual states, quote, "The chaplain is the pastor and the shepherd of the souls entrusted to his care," end quote. This is a high and sacred calling, but this only works if our shepherds are actually given the freedom to boldly guide and care for their flock. Stay tuned for more. We are going to make the Chaplain Corps great again. And Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Secretary of War, for your work you're doing for the soldiers and care you give to their spiritual well-being as well. President Trump had this to say. He announced the Patriot Games. This is a 4-day athletic event featuring one young man and woman from each state and U.S. territory for America's 250th birthday. I promise there will be no men playing in women's sports. Let's listen to how he describes it here.
In my campaign for president, I pledged to give America the most spectacular birthday party the world has ever seen for America's 250th anniversary on July 4th next year. Already we've had big celebrations to commemorate the 250th birthdays of the Army, the Navy, and the United States Marines, but there is much, much more to come. We're going to have a good time. As we ring in 2026, Americans across the nation will see the iconic Washington Monument illuminated with festive birthday lights to honor the start of this historic anniversary year. Then from June 25th to July 10th of next year, we will host the Great American State Fair on the National Mall, featuring pavilions from all 50 states, highlighting breathtaking innovations and celebrating America's exceptional history and culture. Frankly, you'll never see anything like it, and you'll never see anything like it again. In the fall, we will host the first ever Patriot Games, an unprecedented 4-day athletic event featuring the greatest high school athletes, one young man and one young woman from each state and territory. But I promise there will be no men playing in women's sports. You're not going to see that. You'll see everything but that. As I first announced in 2020, we will build the National Garden of American Heroes featuring statues of all-time greatest Americans, and we will build a triumphal arc as we celebrate 250 years of American freedom. We are the only major city. We are the only major capital. We are the only major place without a triumphal arc, a beautiful triumphal arc, one like in Paris, where they have the a beautiful arc in Paris. They call it the Arc de Triomphe. And we're going to have one in Washington, D.C. very soon. Construction will start in the very near future. And next spring, we will host a major prayer event on the National Mall to rededicate our country as one nation under God. We're not changing that. There are a lot of people who would like to see it. It'll never happen. And on Flag Day, we will have a one-of-a-kind UFC event here at the White House. It'll be the greatest champion fighters in the world, all fighting that same night. The great Dana White is hosting, and it's going to be something special. But all of this is just the beginning. 2026 will be a celebration of America like no other, honoring our nation in all of its glory. To help carry out these exciting plans, we have created a new public-private partnership. It's called Freedom 250. Working with states, companies, and organizations across the country, we will renew the patriotism, pride, and pioneering spirit of America and lay the groundwork for the next 250 years of independence and freedom. This will be a time like you've never had in your lives. America.
So big news about the coming celebration for our country's birthday next July 4th. That's going to be huge. I think it's awesome what's building up here. I hope you guys are getting excited about it. I'm actually getting excited about this. Benny Johnson had this to share good news for federal workers. By the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered. All executive departments and agencies of the federal government shall be closed and their employees excused from duty on Wednesday, December 24, 2025, and Friday, December 26, 2025, the day before and the day following Christmas Day, respectively. So congratulations, federal workers. You now have a 3-day holiday. That's fantastic. In closing, I just wanted to share this little video because, you know, sometimes I like to share some things that are a little bit fun, a little bit light, right? Because there's going to be a lot coming at you. And if you recall, you know, a few months ago, we had the epic sombrero breakout that happened in October. And apparently the White House just couldn't let this opportunity go by. They had to share this little short video. Let's take a look. So in a hat tip to Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, the White House gets a sombrero Christmas ornament put on the Christmas tree. So incredible things going on, folks. I know this was a bit long. There is so much happening. We can't even fit it all in. And I wanted to try to give you a scope of all the things happening in all the different departments of the government that is moving us forward to Nasara Jasara. Of course, they don't call it that. We have other terms for the things that are occurring, things like the Big Beautiful Bill. The Big Beautiful Bill, it was amazing. I think we could have probably labeled it halfway to Nasara and it would have been accurate. But it certainly is leading us closer to what we're looking for, which is a restoration of our country. And so now we see how it's affecting healthcare, how we're redoing Department of Agriculture, how we're redoing finance, how we're redoing technology. We're going to completely rebuild all the digital infrastructure. We're redoing all of our airspace control systems. Our Golden Dome is going into effect. It's amazing what is happening. I wanted to title this one The Christmas Gift to America so that everybody could see and understand Everything you said that you wanted is actually occurring. I know it's not like happening in a week, happening in 2 days, as many of us would wish, but it is happening step by step, and it's not letting up. The push of this administration is accelerating, and you're going to see this continue as we get into 2026. I think by next spring, we could be at epic levels of restoration. And so it's very exciting to see what's happening in our country. It's moving in a positive direction to give freedom, to give um, sovereignty back to the people. The moves to eliminate income tax, the moves to eliminate property tax, all of this is good. All of this is positive so that you don't have to buy a home and pay rent to a county for the rest of your life. You know, we don't go out and buy a flat screen TV from Best Buy and we pay rent to the county for the rest of our life. The idea sounds absurd, actually, to think of it. Yet we'll do that with a house and not question it. But it's time that we begin to question it. The provisions are there. I shared in the last update that we did 2 weeks ago how US debt clock showed how the money could be replaced of what people are paying in property tax. And that could come from new credit unions in all 50 states, giving out new car loans, home loans, credit cards, business loans, and the interest derived from those loans can actually fund those things that we are now funding property tax. So there's a mechanism to replace this heavy taxation burden on the people. And in addition to that, we're now monetizing assets of the country to create income that's going to continue to grow for the days and years ahead. So I hope this was helpful for everybody today. Seth, thank you for your patience. I know this went a little long. I even tried to cut it down, and I did several times. There's just so much to cover in the last 4 weeks. It's been unbelievable. But I hope you're having a wonderful Christmas time, all of you. We're in the time of season of holiday, and I hope that many of you are taking time to enjoy life and your family around you. From me, from everybody here at Enid Global Services, I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas, the most prosperous New Year, and I know that it will be. And we can certainly be excited about where we're going with the nation. I realize we don't have a lot of time for Q&A, but we'll try to just whip through them as quick as we can.
All righty. Before we get started, Will, can you hear me? Seems he still can't hear me. So
Are you there, Seth?
yeah. What's strange is everybody except you can hear me. Hopefully you can look in the chat.
There we go.
Oh, can you hear me now?
I hear you now. Yeah, I had a
Okay.
brief audio hiccup there, but you're there. I'm good.
All right, perfect. All right. So I actually was trying to get your attention during your presentation because for the first half of it, your slides were off to the right and the like right-hand side was cut off. But unfortunately, you weren't able to hear me. So I just thought I'd bring that.
I didn't realize you couldn't see it all.
Yeah, but then later on you were zooming in and out and it got better after that. But anyways, okay, so it is question and answer time, everybody. So we already have some questions in the chat, but if you want to speak your question out loud, all you need to do is raise your hand to be unmuted. Doesn't mean you'll be unmuted immediately, but I will see you and I'll get around to you. If you are calling in on the phone, you have to press *9. That's how you raise your hand if you want to ask a question if you're calling in. Okay, so our first question is from AG. It's a little bit long, so bear with me. There's only one question at the end, though. All right, so she says, he or she, actually, I have no idea. We have seen perhaps enough of the stick and carrot approach, and perhaps it is time to see real outcomes. For example, eliminating IRS and the U.S. corporation, debt elimination for all Americans. As the Nationals, we don't owe anything to anyone. Rolling out the revaluation and arresting people involved in election fraud and Medicaid fraud, etc. The time is ticking, and not sure who will hold the majority in 2026. Hope we don't see empty promises after the current term, leaving nothing. So the question is, why would the billionaires, trillionaires, and the other top 0.01% let go of their control on the modern day slavery of the nationals?
Okay. First of all, they've already let control.
It's a loaded question.
Everything you're watching right now is a new election. The reason that the IRS hasn't gone away is because we're not ready to let the Federal Reserve go away. We have to have a fully protected new financial system. That means we need law and regulation that surround that new system and protect it before we can switch gears. We're halfway there. Although that second half could go very fast. What I mean by that is we have the Genius Act, which protects basically US dollars and blockchain. But we have the rest of blockchain, the rest of crypto that needs to be covered, which is covered by the Digital Asset Clarification Act. This was signed by the House and passed in July. It's now sitting at the Senate. We don't know why the Senate's still sitting on this legislation, which is the other half of what the Genius Bill is. Okay. So we need both of those to fully protect the new financial system by law and order. I don't know what the delay is unless they're actually being told not yet, because it doesn't make sense. They passed the Genius Bill right away within like 3 days of getting it from the House, but yet why wait on the Digital Asset Clarification Act? We don't really know the answer yet on that, but I think it has something to do with the timing of how this unfolds. Once that is passed and sent to the president signed, then there's not many roadblocks left to do a financial change. So the only reason I could think of for waiting is that maybe there's other infrastructure being put in place, digital systems being installed and upgraded. We heard about Tech Force today, about we're upgrading all that. So you don't flip a switch and take a country from where it was to a new direction in a day. It takes time. And the reason that I do these presentations, show the slides, is I want you to understand we are making progress each and every month that this is rolled out. It's making progress every week, in fact, towards an Asara type restoration of our country. I hope that helps.
Okay, thank you very much. Our next question is from Robert Latham. He has a two-part question. So at your individual currency exchange meeting, what would be an acceptable amount of fiat dollars one holds to transfer to the asset-backed new currency? And with an asset-backed currency in future use, will the drop in volatility result in a reduced incentive to trade for profit in the stock and commodity trading platforms?
Okay, you've got multiple parts to the what is probably a three-pronged question. But here's the gist of this. When you are paid for your assets as part of the revaluation process and redemption process, you're not going to receive fiat dollars. You're not going to receive debt-backed money for that. It was never meant to be done that way. It was always meant to be receiving asset-backed money. That will be delivered via blockchain. It doesn't go through a bank. It goes directly to your digital wallet, which you will authorize and set up when you go to your appointment, and you'll receive it directly. Now, you can send money to your bank. You'll be able to transfer from there to your bank and use your bank for whatever services you want to use, maybe investment services even. But your funds will stay with you in your personal wallet. And so that's the important thing to understand about what's coming. It's the reason why we can't do an RV yet. We don't have the new asset-backed currency. It's important that we have that because these particular assets were never meant to be traded for fiat debt. We're leaving that system behind and we're going to an asset-based system. So this is why it's taking a while. I know it's frustrating for everybody, but it is the process of bringing in a new financial system.
Very good. Thank you very much. You know, you reminded me of something while answering that question. There's an app called Glint that I've been using for a little over a year now, where they have, I don't know whether they're a bank or whether they have contracts with a bank or how it works, but basically when you create an account with them, you can deposit money into it in US dollars, and you could use that to buy actual physical gold or silver, which will be held in a vault in Switzerland for you. So it's not buying certificates, it's buying the actual thing, but without having to hold on to it yourself. And you get a debit card attached to the account so that you could use it like a regular bank account and you can deposit whatever kind of money you want into there. And it's actually in gold or silver, and it increases or decreases with the gold and silver charts because it is gold or silver. So I just thought I would throw that out there for everybody since it came
There
to
is a
mind.
number of different companies that are providing services that tie tokens directly to physical assets. That is one of them. I'm familiar with them as well.
Yeah. So again, in case you missed that, it's called Glint, Glint. You can look it up in any app store on your phone. All right, our next question is from Monica Nicopolis. Is there any news about Canada? Carney seems very white hat controlled to help wake people up, but things up here are not improving in any way with the cost of living increasing. Is there any news about
Fortunately,
Canada?
Canada and the UK are in the throes of a very difficult, rocky time. It's actually deliberate. It's a part of the awakening. I realize if you're asking a question, you're one of the awakened. You're like, what's taking so long? Our country's in a real problem. We understand that. But you've got a lot of liberal base in Ottawa and surrounding areas there that need to get it. And sometimes you have to hit them over the head. I realize it's a lousy excuse for what's going on. But the reality is every country is undergoing this whole process of revolution. In the UK, they're screaming because they're being censored at epic levels. I mean, censorship is ridiculous over there right now. If you just say the wrong thing, people show up, the police are going to show up at your door or something. So it's really hard on the people at this time. I can tell you that the other side of this will be beautiful. It will be prosperous. It will be filled with freedom. But it is going to be bumpy, going to be a little rocky through the transition. And I wish I could tell you it'd be otherwise, but that would be an act.
The unfortunate truth of reality. More questions from AG. She actually has a few questions here. I don't know why I keep saying she. I assume it's a she. I hope that's true because I keep saying it. Sorry if it's not. AG's first question here is, oftentimes we spoke about stocking up on food and other essential items in preparation for a transition where a hold in place may be necessary. Is that still in play? Should one prepare as the time near now?
I think it's always good policy to have a store, food, water, supplies, for anything that might occur. You could have an interruption in income. You could lose a job. Anything could happen. Always good to be self-sufficient. However, the big idea of there being a big shutdown of everything, all the credit cards turning off on the same day and everything coming to a halt, it seems to be losing some viability. I'm not saying it couldn't still happen. I think it very well could still happen. But there seems to be things in place right now that this administration is doing that seems to be moving towards a direction where they want a little bit of smoother transition than to throw everybody into shutdown. We had shutdown in COVID, and man, was it chaotic. That was crazy. Nobody wants to relive that again. And I think that that's affecting the plan because everybody knows what happened during COVID and how difficult it was. And so it seems like they're trying to take a gentler approach to the transition. We will have to see how that occurs because somebody asked me yesterday, say, what about the stock market? Is it gonna crash and lose, half of its value overnight? Well, it's true that typically the stock market has had some air puffed in it, okay? Some of the values have been a little bit excessive. But as the stock market transitions to blockchain, it moves into complete transparency. And transparency tends to eliminate all the focus stuff that's been going on in the background. Transparency could do that on a stock by stock basis as it's transition. So are we going to see a big shutdown and everybody's got to sit in front of their TV and find out everything in your life has been a lie and it's all different? That doesn't seem to be the approach that's being taken, at least for this first 11 plus months of this administration. There seems to be taking an approach of step by step by step transition, which is interesting and probably would be a more menial way to get to where we want to go rather than shock and awe, which could have some people so disturbed that they might actually fight against the transition. So you don't want people to fight against you. You want them to go along. And I think that most of the narrative that we watch today isn't for this audience. It's not for the people that are awake and understand this stuff. It's really for those that don't yet know. And they need a plausible story they can believe of how these things can actually come about. We know we don't need a story for there to be the end of income tax and everything else. We know that there's been a lot of fraud going on there, okay? But for those that don't understand any of that, telling them there's a new source of revenue, like tariffs and income from properties of the government and everything else, is a plausible explanation as to why there doesn't need to be income tax without having to tell them their whole life is a lie. They'll learn it. Everybody will learn it in time, but to help to beat them over the head with it and put them into shock and awe, they might just fight you. And I think we're trying to prevent that from what I've seen from the administration. I hope that helps.
Very enlightening answer. Thank you. Her next question is, should one still continue to do declaration of the estate and explicitly become a state citizen, or would it be by default once the reset takes place?
With the changes that's coming, it's probably not necessary. It doesn't mean you can't make whatever changes you want to make, but I don't think you need to go through a complete upset of your life. The Patriots already know where everything belongs. They already know where everybody is subjugated. So there's changes being made for freedom, for everybody to regain their sovereignty. Do you need to do an ROE, revocation of election, and choose to get out of the tax system? You certainly can do that. That doesn't apply to everybody. If you're a federal employee, if you live in one of the territories or the District of Columbia or something like that, then you don't have an option. You would have to be in one of the states of the union, and you would have to be probably employed in a job where you didn't need a license. You need a license from your state. They're going to require you to be a taxpayer. So there's some situations where you could do that. Some of you, it would apply. Others of you, you would just be fighting the system that's going to go away anyway. And so why go through the battle? So each of you are going to have to make that decision yourself as to what you think you need to do. But I will tell you that generally on a whole scale of the country, and this applies to almost every country of the world because everyone's undergoing similar circumstances. I've been talking about specific to the United States today, but the revolution is worldwide. And so I do think that you should follow your heart about that. I will say this, though. Don't make decisions based on fear. Don't make decisions based on you're afraid of something, or that if you don't do something that some crazy thing might happen. You need to consciously study, learn about what your options are, and then make decisions based on what you feel is actually best for you in your life. And you can't go wrong when you do that.
Yeah. Sorry about that pause there. I was just reading the next question in my head, preparing
Oh, no
for
worries.
it. All right, so the next question is the East India Company, which initiated this banking cartel who enslaved humanity, still exists now that it morphed itself in being called as DTCC. I'm not familiar with that. I don't know if you are. I do not see any news or evidence that the cartel members like JPMC, JP Morgan and Chase, Bank of America, and others are going out of business. So how does one believe a reset, especially those done by billionaires who always try to protect their interests?
We're still in the banking system right now. You're not going to see those go away until we flip the switch. And it won't even be immediate then. It'll be something that'll happen over a series of years because the whole country is programmed into this idea of using banks. Now, that's just this country. If you go to some countries in Africa, there's people who have been using cash their whole life and they've never even had a bank account. Not ever, right? This is why the reset involves cash for some time because not everybody is up to date on technology. What's interesting is they will probably go to the new system very quickly because it'll be an app on their phone and they'll learn it very fast and they'll just bypass all the stuff that we went through in terms of banks. So maybe it'll even be better for them. But what's interesting is as we look at the banks and why aren't they crashing and going away, you actually don't want all the banks to crash. It creates such economic chaos with everyone around you, friends and family. They don't know. They may not know this is going on. All of us here on this call probably have friends and family that are not awake, that don't understand any of this stuff, and they look at you like you got three heads if you talk about it. Okay, I understand that. However, I think that what we're seeing here is a way to transition to get income in. See, the Trumps done this in steps. If you look at what's happened since the beginning of the year, they put the sovereign wealth fund in place first. Then they started building that asset, putting all the properties in there, getting the revenue going into that. They started the tariffs in April, and then really kicked in around July. Okay, and now from then till now, we've only been collecting tariffs for about 6 or 7 months, and it's 370 billion. What would have been if it had been 12 months of that? Right? Much bigger number, obviously. So there's enough coming in tariff revenue, if you break it down on a monthly basis, that it's pretty much already wiping out any of our deficit we were having in the country. And then you have all this new investment coming in that's taking place. So there seems to be this process that they're taking where they're putting foundational stones in place. And foundation is, if anybody's done building, I grew up, I'm the son of a general contractor. I grew up on job sites, so I get this. I realize some of you may not know, but if you don't have a good foundation, you don't have a house, right? You don't have a building that'll stay up. It's going to crack, it's going to crumble, there's going to be some problems. Foundation work is oftentimes below the surface. You never see it. You don't even realize what's happening. But it's absolutely essential to everything else you put up. So when the big stuff starts happening that seems more visual for everybody, just know that all of this year of 25, we were laying foundation so that the rest of this can stand for hundreds of years. So I hate to say be patient. I've been at this 32 decades, folks. I understand everybody's out of patience. I get it. But it's a big behemoth of a machine. The government is the biggest company, essentially, that we have in our nation, and ours is one of the biggest in the world in terms of finance. So you don't just change that in one day Or otherwise, you have absolute catastrophe. You would have rioting in the streets and people looting each other, and it would be a mess. So we have to take it in steps and stages so that we don't devolve into something very dark. Because we need to go to a place of light and stay out of it. I hope that helps a little bit.
Perfect. Thank you so much. It's a lot of praise that came in, by the way, for your presentation there. 10 minutes left on the clock. We got Nancy, who's had her hand raised for a while now. I'm going to give her the floor. Go ahead, Nancy. You should be able to speak now.
Yes. So, with all the talk over the past 5 years of the possibility of wide-scale bank bail-ins before we fully transition to the new financial system, do you think that U.S. banks and credit unions currently are safe to place our money in? Because over the past 5 years, I and many others certainly do not feel secure at all in keeping our money there. And as a result, we keep only the bare minimum there to pay bills, which is not ideal. I'd like to be, I don't like, anyway, that's my question. Thank you.
Well, it's a very good question, and it's bank specific in terms of the response. A lot of the big national banks, Chase, JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Citibank, Wells Fargo, US Bank. These large banks have a lot of other ancillary activities that they're doing that's much broad in terms of risk. Okay. If you're at a credit unions are pretty benign. They don't go into adverse risk areas. Probably fine. Okay. Because most of them are watching their books pretty close. So I think you have to look at each institution individually. I have accounts at some of the big banks, which I've had for, well, probably better than a couple of decades, a long time. But what's interesting is they hold derivatives exposure that your credit unions wouldn't have, for instance, right? Because they're involved in the derivatives market. Credit unions don't do anything. They don't do the risky stuff, okay? They're just they're your hometown lender, right? So I think it really depends on where you want to put those funds. The reality is, if one of the big five were to go under, it would exhaust whatever the FDIC has. They may not have enough for even one of the big ones to go under because of their size. So you just have to make choices on where do you think there's going to be safety for you. I have little small community banks in my portfolio, and I have big ones, and I will kind of move things around. And I do that because I'm managing risk like all of you, right? We all manage risk. So we have to find ways to protect ourselves. Any money that's in a bank account that's cash will be converted to the new currency okay, that's going to be kind of an automatic. It'll just happen. You're not going to have to go to your bank or do anything. It's just going to be changed automatically. However, if you're in investments, stock market or whatever, well, you're going to be susceptible to whatever the market conditions are. And nobody can save you from it. The only thing that I've heard that is somewhat protected is retirement, cash, and savings, which is if it's in the form of cash. If you're doing CD or maybe some other investment vehicles, there could be some market risk that's involved in it. So you need to choose wisely. What's interesting, I find it interesting, is there is more cash sitting in accounts today, not working, than I think I've ever seen. Because everybody senses a great change is coming, and they don't want to be in something risky when it happens. So even like Warren Buffett sitting on vast amounts of cash that could be invested, but waiting. Turns out the next 6 months could be life changing in a lot of different ways. And so you ask a good question, and I think that I want to give you what I would do. What I can't give you is financial advice. I am not licensed to do that, not qualified to do that thing to hang up or to tell you I can give you financial advice. But what I would do is listen to my own heart about the subject and not be acting in a place of fear. Just know that anything that is in the marketplace is a risk. Anytime you invest, there's a certain amount of risk involved in any kind of investment. Doesn't matter if it's real estate or if it's stocks or bonds or anything else. Unless it's something that's guaranteed, like an insurance product or something, where they will give you guarantees. Then you're dependent on how good is the insurance company, right? There's still some liability there that might be there. So what I would do is I would look at institutions that have less of a risk, because if things start to topple, the banks sitting on high leveraged derivatives could be in a much riskier situation than just your hometown bank that doesn't participate in that. I realize that's a long answer, but I hope it's helpful.
It works for me. Thank you very much. So this is probably my favorite question of the evening here from Susan. She asks, do we have to pay back the debt to the Federal Reserve?
It's a good question. And I think we will see how this plays out. What I mean by that is, for years, and this go back to 71 when President Nixon took us off the gold standard. From that day on, every bit of money was generated with a keystroke or a mouse click. Does that mean the Federal Reserve put up something of value? Did they put up a stockpile of gold in a vault to issue that money to the government? No, it was a mouse click. Should the American people be required to pay back billions of dollars with their blood, sweat, and tears and their work and their effort for something that was a mouse click? Is that fair? It's a good question. And I'm being rhetorical here, I get that. But we all need to ask that question. Does that make sense? Because if they're issuing money that they have zero basis in whatsoever, is it fraud for them to ask for real stuff in return? These are the questions that are going to be answered as this plays out.
Yep. All right, so that leaves us about 2 minutes to the hour. So I figure that's enough time to close the meeting, because I know you probably got to get going right at the hour. So our apologies if we didn't get to your questions during this this webinar this week, but thank you for being here. Thank you for participating. Merry Christmas, and you will have another opportunity in the next webinar next week. I'm sorry, next month.
Awesome. We will definitely be back with Brilliance in Commerce next month, so excited to meet with you guys again and continue these discussions. They're always enlightening. If I could just share some closing comments, Seth.
Absolutely.
We are in the season of Christmas. It's called Christmas because it's the birthday of Jesus Christ, that is arguably had more impact upon the entire population of this world than any other single person. And we ring out the bells in the freedom of light, of joy, of love to the King of Kings who came so that we all might have life and have it more abundantly, so that we might share with him the inheritance that is all that the Father had. And he makes all that possible. So for those of you that are Christians and are celebrating this holiday, I celebrate with you. If you're not, then please forgive me discussing my belief. But there is nothing that's had a bigger impact on my life than the life of Jesus Christ, his teachings and his parables and the things that he has done have changed me in a dramatically good way. I hope many of you can be like what Nineveh that see him, no matter what it takes. And it took them nearly 2 years to find him, by the way, those who don't know. So let us be wise. Let us always seek for the golden rule to do unto others as we would have them do unto us. And may we remember that even though we give gifts, and there's a lot of talk about Santa Claus and fun things for children, that the most important gift is the gift of his life. The gift that keeps giving to us every single day. So with that, Merry Christmas, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful holiday, and I hope that the year is absolutely prosperous for all of you, and that we enjoy being in golden age with projects everywhere, helping everyone. And I know many of you are looking forward to that as I. So thank you, Seth. Thank you, everybody at Brilliance in Commerce. So glad to be with you today. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Thank you for that beautiful ending. You take care now. We'll see you next month, everybody.
Bye-bye.